Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of India Habitat Center and Mr. Benoy K Behl. Mr. Behl has spent a lifetime in the documentation and analysis of ancient Indian and Asian art. His very extensive travels and the vastness of his coverage have provided a rare and wide perspective to the understanding of many subjects. While traveling the length and breadth of the country, he has come into contact with many treasures of heritage. The Baul singers of Bengal are among those who have won his heart completely, and today he shares this subject with us. For those of you who were not with us for previous talks, I will give a brief introduction to the work of Mr. Behl. He is an art historian, filmmaker, and photographer who is known for his tireless and prolific output of work over the past 46 years. He has taken over 53,000 photographs of monuments and art heritage and made 145 documentaries, which are regularly screened at major cultural institutions worldwide. His photographic exhibitions have been warmly received in 74 countries. They have been inaugurated by ministers of the governments of various countries, ambassadors, and other dignitaries. He is the person who, for the first time, photographed the 5th century Buddhist paintings of Ajanta in their true colors and details. His book, The Ajanta Caves, is one of the most widely read books on Indian art history in the world. His publisher, Stamps and Hudson London, will soon be bringing out yet another edition of this book. This edition will include some images of Ajanta paintings which have been carefully digitally restored by Mr. Behl. His recent books include The Art of India in 2 beautiful volumes, Buddhism, The Path of Compassion, The Buddhist Heritage of Sri Lanka, and Hindu deities worshipped in Japan. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Benoy K Behl shares with us today his experiences with the Bauls of Bengal. This is the 8th talk in the series, Glimpses of Culture. Thank you. Over to Mr. Behl now.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to be here again with this audience. My many thanks to India Habitat Center and its director, Mrs. Sunit Tandon, for collaborating with me so many times over the years to share beautiful examples, beautiful nuggets of the treasure of India's culture. It has indeed been wonderful of Habitat Center. My many thanks to Ms. Renu Oberoi, the head of programming of IHC, for taking such a warm interest and for organizing all this so excellently. Sushant, who looks after the technical aspects of these programs, has helped us so brilliantly. Thank you so much, all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, perhaps the most remarkable thing about India has been that philosophy has been a way of life of the Indian people. Philosophy has not been something which has been kept to be studied at universities, an academic subject. It has been lived, and the most common of people, all the people, whether it is gardeners, whether it is domestic help, have all been capable and have all very often been found to be discussing deeply philosophical matters. It's been quite amazing. In fact, I remember when I remember a Russian gentleman who I met on the shores of the vast lake Baikal in Siberia. And he immediately began to tell me about his experiences when he had stayed for some time at Varanasi. One day, his bicycle got stolen, and he went to the police station to make a complaint. And that, as he pointed out, ended up with him sitting across the table with the SHO and the two of them discussing philosophy. Now, that happens, should I say, only in India, or at least it must be very few places in the world, including India. My friend Richard Dixie, an international Theravada Buddhist expert, speaks of how he says, scratch an Indian and you find a philosopher. Whether it is a taxi driver or a cabinet minister, they're all, just on the point of having a philosophic discussion with you at any time. Quite remarkable. And this has made it a wondrous journey to travel and to understand and to delve into the culture of this land. And you can imagine how, with this backdrop, what a joy it was to come upon the Bauls of Bengal. Most remarkable how so-called uneducated people by present-day norms sing about the most nuanced philosophic ideas. And it is not just that they just sing the words, but they are able to discuss with you the various nuances, the various shades of meaning, and with as much deep passion as with sharp intellect. Wonderful. So-called common village folk are so much treasures of culture. So, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me pleasure to share with you today this little film which I made on the Bauls of Bengal. Sushant, I would request you to please run the film. Thank you.
India has seen some of the highest developments of science and technology since very early times. 6,000 years ago, the first well-planned cities of the world were here. The cities of the Indus Valley period are perfectly laid out, with avenues heading from north to south and streets dissecting them at right angles. They had an excellent drainage system back there in 4000 BC. The feats of Indian engineering in ancient and medieval times are almost unbelievable. One of the scores of examples is the magnificent Kailash Natha temple at Ellora. In the 8th century, this entire hillside was transformed into a great temple with structures carved both inside and out. The scale is breathtaking. From the courtyard, the temple rises over 100 feet. This involved the cutting away of over 2 million tons of rock. Indian dance traditions are fully recognized all over the world to be sublime. The seemingly miraculous achievements of Indian civilization consistently over the centuries have been because of a great sense of dedication. This dedication has come from a deep study of the science of life. Philosophy has been a way of life of the Indian people. A yogic posture is seen in a 5,000 years old seal of Indus Valley times. What is remarkable is that the most sophisticated ideas of Indian philosophy have been a heritage of the people. Even the most common people have been deeply aware of the philosophic truths. Today, even in the fast-changing and commercializing world, a few pockets of Indian thought and tradition survive. The Bauls of Bengal are among these. We are in the Birbhum district, about 200 kilometers northwest of the city of Kolkata. Many of the villages here have families of Baul singers. Through them, an age-old tradition has been handed down through the centuries.
আমার জাত গেল পেট ভরলো না গো ও গো না গরে আমার জ্বলে যায় জীবন আমি করি কি এখন স্থির হতে না পারি আমার ঘরে রয় না মন আমার ঘরে রয় না মন আমার যন্ত্রণা হলো ভারী হায় না গড়ি আমার যন্ত্রণা হলো ভারী ওগো না গড়ি আমার জাত গেল পেট ভরলো না গো ওগো না গড়ি আমার জাত গেল পেট ভরলো না গো ওগো না গড়ি
The philosophy that they have matches quite well with the kind of philosophy that in many songs Tagore often had advocated.
এ দুঃখ বলবো কার কাছে
In 2005, UNESCO included Baul singing in their list of the world's masterpieces of oral and intangible heritage.
দিল দহরি আর মাঝে রে ভাই আছে মজার কারখানা দিল দহরি আর মাঝে রে ভাই
The word Baul probably comes from the Sanskrit viyakul, meaning impatiently eager. Some consider them to be insane, in a divinely inspired way. Indeed, they are far from the sanity of the materialistic and mundane world.
এইভাবে কেউ বা পাগল পাগল পীড়িতির আসে কেউ বা পাগল হলো বাবা বিষয় লালসে থাকে কামের মতো তাদের চিত্ত, তারা নিত্য সত্য মানে না। না 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 হায় ভোলা মন, তারা নিত্য সত্য মানে না। মনের মতো পাগল পেলাম না, আমি তাইতে পাগল হলেম না। না 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 তাইতে পাগল হলেম না, মনের মতো পাগল পেলাম না। ও
They're ecstatically impatient to lose themselves, to lose their own identities, to see themselves as a part of the greater one, that one which is also within.
ওরে খেপা মন আমার, আর মনকে বললাম মন চলো বৃন্দাবনে। কত নীলা সেথাই হের বিনয়নে, পাগল মন বলে আমি আছি বিষয় ধনে, মন বলে আমি আছি বিষয় ধনে। তবু সে ধন ছেড়ে যাওয়া হবে না, হবে না, বহু যত্ন করে।
Bauls have a philosophy focused on the individual himself. It is a personal, spiritual quest they follow. They believe that if there is any God, it is that which is within us.
In particular, they have been making a connection between the self and the soul of the person with the supreme self.
Dehotattva is a very important philosophy of Baul. They believe that human body is the ultimate thing. So it's not God, it's not Allah, it's basically human body.
Tagore was deeply impressed. I don't know if he was influenced, but then he was deeply impressed about the whole philosophy of Bauls.
Lalune Fakir died at the age of 117 when Tagore was only 24. There is no document suggesting that Tagore actually met Lalune Fakir. But Fakirs believe that they met.
প্রাণের মানুষ আছে প্রাণে, তাই হেরি তাই সকল খানে আছে সে।
Many songs of Rabindranath Tagore are deeply reminiscent of the themes of the Bauls.
ওগো তাই দেখি তাই যেথায় সেথায় তাকাই আমি যে দিক পানে।
ওরে লোক দেখানো খুঁটি নাটি, ওরে লোক দেখানো খুঁটি নাটি, এ নয় তোর সাধনা। ওরে মনে ভাবের ঘরে চুরি করলে চলবে না, না 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 চলবে না রে চলবে না। ওরে মনে ভাবের ঘরে চুরি করলে চলবে না।
The Bauls have a very simple way of looking at life. The images that they use in their song are very simple images, something which touches upon the everyday life of people around this place.
বলি এই গাড়িতে চড়তে গেলে ভক্তির টিকিট থাকা চাই, কৃষ্ণ প্রেমের রেলের গাড়ি চড়বি কেড়ে যায়। চার ক্লাসে গাড়ি সারা, ধর্ম অর্থ কাম মুখ্য দ্বারা। চার ক্লাসে গাড়ি সারা, ধর্ম অর্থ কাম মুখ্য দ্বারা। যে গাড়ির প্যাসেঞ্জার যারা, সেই গাড়ি চড়ে তারাই, কৃষ্ণ প্রেম রেলের গাড়ি চড়বি কেড়ে যায়।
When they sing it's not like anybody is singing. They have a real practice behind that. And all these yogic practices, or particularly breathing practices, create that kind of a singing. If you think, nowhere in the world will you find a single person singing, playing iktara on one hand and dancing and playing the dugi on the other hand at the same time. Nowhere in the world. It's very difficult to get a tradition of song which holds the tone for such a long time while dancing. And maybe you will get it in Indian classical music, but they don't move. They sit and sing. Here they run around.
ও কত লক্ষ জনম ঘুরে ঘুরে ও কত লক্ষ জনম ঘুরে ঘুরে সাধের মানব জনম পেয়েছো রে এ জনম চলে গেলে ও ভোলা মন এ জনম চলে গেলে ও পাগল মন ও ফিরে আর তো পাবে না না গো না 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 যেতে দেবো না আমি হিদ মাজারে ভুবন মোহনগরা মনমনি জনার মনোহরা হয়ে রাধার প্রেমে মাতয়ারা ও হয়ে রাধার প্রেমে মাতয়ারা ওই আমি থাকবো মগ না 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 গো না যেতে দেবো না ওই আমি
Anybody who visits this side of Bengal would find them in train, railway stations, platforms, on the road, in village corners, almost everywhere.
কাগজে সারে সকল কাম হলো পোস্ট কাটার খাম
It is a carrying forward of the tradition in modern times. Whereas earlier, people used to gather in the villages to listen to the Bauls. Today, here he is in the crowded railway trains, and people are entertained by him.
দুই রঙেতে হচ্ছে লীলা বুঝে না মন দুইয়ের খেলা বলি ত্রিগুণেতে তিরি খানা বলি ত্রিগুণেতে তিরি খানা চৌকো হয় চার ধামেতে এসেছো বসেছো ভবে তাস খেলিতে পঞ্চভূতের পাঞ্জা খানা
I think you can relate this to many other things, to Upanishad, to Gita, but I don't know if there is any point doing it, because this is a community knowledge. It is, you will hardly get, everybody talks about Lalune and he was probably the only exception to the whole thing, but otherwise nobody owns anything here.
Lalune Fakir was born in 1774 in a small village in the district of Kushtia, which is now in Bangladesh. His family lived in extreme poverty and he had no formal education. Lalune became one of the greatest mystic singers of the Indian subcontinent. He composed thousands of songs. These continue till today as the greatest inspiration for the Bauls and Fakirs of Bengal. No one knew Lalune Fakir's real name, date or place of birth, or the names or religious affiliations of his parents.
It was something like negating the scripture or negating the rule from above. So therefore it has also a kind of a community which lives, which is a kind of a self-regulated community. It's not regulated or ruled by any external force. Now, I can sing a Baul song for you, but then that's not a Baul song really, because their sound comes from some particular point from the body. And that's the kind of practice they do. This is a very, very, I think I'm told that these are very old kind of Indian practices. And it does not come from the sky. It doesn't fall from the sky. You have to kind of, you need an effort to get that. And that itself, I think, becomes a part of the sadhana, part of the whole life, part of your whole being.
Many times many researchers ask, many people ask whether Baul's son is becoming a Baul or not, Fakir's son is becoming a Fakir or not. Historically that has never happened. It is always the villager who is interested in this has come.
We are in the home of the Fakir Shashtidas Baul. Isn't it quite wonderful that villagers living in such remote places in this country are so deeply versed in philosophy? In fact, that is one of the amazing things about India. Philosophy was never kept as a subject to be studied at universities. It was always something which was used in daily life. It was practiced in daily life by the people, by the common people, by everybody. As a matter of fact, some of the most important epics and scriptures of Indic philosophy were written by the most common people. The concept of the illusory nature of the material world, Maya or Mithya, has been known to all Indians since times immemorial. They have sought different ways, different paths to escape from this web of the illusion of life and to attain knowledge.
নিরাকার ব্রহ্ম হয় সে আকার সাকার হইল সে যেজন দিব্য জ্ঞানী হয় সে জানতে পাই যেজন দিব্য জ্ঞানী হয় সে জানিতে পাই কলি যুগে মানুষ হয় অবতার মানুষ গুরু নিষ্ঠা জাগ ভবে মানুষ গুরু নিষ্ঠা জাগ।
आप गा रहे थे आकार निराकार ब्रह्मो, इसका मतलब बताइए।
ভবে মানুষ গুরু নিষ্ঠা যার সর্বসাধন সিদ্ধি তার। আপনি একটা রূপ, আপনি যখন এই কাজটা শিখতে গেছেন তখন আপনাকে গুরু ধরতে হয়েছে। তা গুরুটাকে মানুষ, মানুষ এক ব্রহ্ম দ্বিতীয় নাস্তি। আকার তো এই মানুষরূপী আকার, মানুষরূপী আকার। এই মানুষের হাট, এই মানুষের বাজার, মানুষে খায় মানুষের প্রসাদ। আমি মরে গেলে মানুষে নিয়ে যাবে, আমাকে নিয়ে এসছেও মানুষে।
সর্ব জায়গায় একই জল হয়।
This is the treasured heritage of the Indian people, a vision of life which looks always towards the eternal, a vision which recognizes material aims and objects as only ephemeral things, a passing reality. The search is always for that which is beyond, that which can only be found within.
If you see the Baul Fakir's music, all they talk about the brotherhood and love and how to overcome the conflict and get into the brotherhood. It is not only important today, I think 50 to 100 years later, maybe Lalune Fakir's songs will be a compulsory reading for all the citizens in the world.
Kappa means a divine man, just now what I was saying, the divine man, that person, he is called Kappa. So in sadhana, when he have seen something extreme, and the other people who never seen, just leave them. That person who doing his sadhana, when that person have seen that extreme point, that time you can say that he is that person who is the happiest person in this world.
They sing about love. They sing about love. Most of their songs are to make you know the way how to reach that situation of pure love. You know the separation of Krishna and Radha, and the songs has been derived from that situation only. There is one great song because Radha thought that she is unable to make Krishna understand her pain, what she is suffering. So she is singing, Poro janome hoyo Radha, my Lord, be Radha in your next life. Then you can understand what I have gone through with this eternal love which you have given to me. Baul is both, like if you cannot be Radha, you cannot attain the qualities of Krishna.
True knowledge in Indian thought is always experienced knowledge. Knowledge which is known, knowledge which is felt deep inside, knowledge which transforms one's life. That is knowledge, not that which is just read from books.
I saw Bauls who are very, very, who look for money, who look for, was greedy and all this, and yet when he's singing, I know he's, light years away from me, and completely different person.
Indian thinkers, these Bauls included, always seek ways to be carried away, to lose the sense of the self, to be carried away in ecstasy, and therefore to discover the truth.
My many thanks to Sujata Chatterji, who not only introduced, made the introduction for this screening, but in fact, she makes it possible for me to do all that I do. And on a more personal note, it is the translation of the Baul songs for which I met her for the first time. And it's been such a wonderful journey thereafter. Ladies and gentlemen, it's so amazing. The concept of concentration, the concept of yoga permeates so much of Indian culture. From where comes that concentration with which a Baul singer in a compartment of a train is able to play his instrument, sing at the same time, squeeze his way past a young boy selling soft drinks, and all of it without wavering for a moment in his notes or his concentration. And all this is not just song, or perhaps that is what all song should be, which is that it comes from deep within. It comes from the heart. It is the best of the fruits of the mind and the heart, of the soul. And all this combined with a great, great physical concentration. And all this, as ever in Indian thought, taking us always away from the mundane nature, the mundane desires of the material world, to what is beyond, to what is within. And it is such a matter of happiness that it is the so-called common people who are seen here, holding together this wonderful heritage, this remarkable heritage of the Indian people, and taking it forward. Thank you very much for sharing this wonderful subject with me. And May I request Ms. Renu Oberoi to please see if there are any questions which I could answer. Thank you.
We have a question from Amita Sinha. Can you elaborate on the influence of Sufi thinking on Baul songs?
The mystic world, such a remarkable world. The mystic world is deeply interconnected and widely spread. In fact, there are many who trace the beginnings of Sufi thought in the Buddhism of Central Asia, and whether it is in the Deccan, you have a remarkable combination of Sufi thoughts and influences, and bhakti, the most marvelous bhakti traditions. And spirituality is of the essence, and all these traditions are very deeply connected. Thank you.
Next comment is from Sonali Mishra. I wanted to ask if there is any link between the Bauls and Mangal Kavyas.
And sorry, and
the Mangal Kavyas. I hope I'm pronouncing it right.
Right. The connections of culture are that they come from the same inherent roots. There is a deep and absolutely wonderful knowledge which is seen crystallized by the 8th or 9th centuries BCE in the Indian subcontinent, in the Upanishads. And this spiritual belief, which understands the illusory nature of the material world, and therefore works constantly in different ways and through different paths towards leaving behind these illusions and concentrating on the journey within to find that eternal truth, that which is lasting and that which is within. So you will find that there are so many paths in different, conceived in different times, conceived in different parts of the subcontinent and in lands where the influence of the subcontinent traveled. And inherently, they all deeply interconnect and come from the same roots, whose early crystallization is seen in the Upanishads. Thank you very much.
We have a comment from Raj Chatterji. It's not a question. Thank you. What a wonderful glimpse into the life and philosophy of the Bauls. Such an incredible treasure. Sonali thanks you for your response to her query.
Well, Raj, thank you very much. And pleasure to share the information with you, Sonali. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, it has been a great pleasure. And I look forward to other opportunities to share with you more instances and more examples from the great treasure of the culture of the subcontinent. And I hope that you are also a little carried away by these thoughts of the Bauls. Thank you so much, and thank you once again, Renu. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you everyone for attending. Would request you to just mark your calendar. The next talk is on April 23rd at 6 p.m. titled The Second Buddha. We look forward to having you all again in the month of April. Thank you all once again. And thank you, Mr. Behl, on behalf of the India Habitat Center.